Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I'm Lorraine Macar and today I'm going to talk about the books that I want to reread either this year in 2021 or maybe bring on to next year. So you might or might not know this, but I want to reread at least one book a month. I've started rereading last year and it took me a while to get into it, but it's actually very fulfilling to get back to these books that either you know you love or that you're wondering what you'll take away from them now reading them at a later stage. So I've been perusing my shelves and I've been looking at the list of books that I've read about 3 to 4 years ago because I think that books that I read 2 years ago are still too freshly in my mind, so I've kind of looked at prior to that, and I've got a big bunch here with me to show you. One of the first ones, I've kind of already started rereading this because it's the series His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. I've already reread the first one at the end of last year, and I want to get to the second one, The Tower of Angels, and the third one, The Mirror of Amber. I have them in French. Somewhere this year, and the idea of rereading this was also so that I could start reading the books that Philip Pullman has now been bringing out, but I don't think I will be reading the second book of his new trilogy because apparently there's a very weird kind of pedophile vibe at one point. And I don't think that should have been brought out in the way it has apparently been brought out. But I still want to reread these because it's been at least 10 years and I'm getting a lot more from the story now. Another book that has been a while that I've read it is one that I've recently talked about, and it's Le Juge d'Égypte by Christian Jacques, which is set in ancient Egypt, and we follow a Egyptian judge because he is very pure-hearted and very honest and very hard-working. He kind of climbs the ladder of being judge, and he finds out there's a plot to kill the pharaoh at the time, Ramses II. And I remember liking this. I remember it being very easy to read despite it being quite a big thing. This is actually 3 books in one, so I'll first read the first one before deciding whether I continue with the series. Another series that I want to... No, I've actually taken the second one, but it's a Dutch series by Nathalie Koch, and it is Het levende labyrinth. So The Living Labyrinth. I don't think these have been translated to English, but I haven't checked, to be honest. It's fantasy. It's a kind of a young girl that is sent to a school in England. She's Dutch, and there she slowly discovers that she actually has magical powers and is part of this magical world. And I remember really liking this magical world because it's very impregnated into our modern world. So they have, for example, in their school, I remember that they can find a lot of things online because, it's 2015 maybe in this book. And they have found ways to use the internet, but then in the magical society. And I really like that kind of stuff. And I also remember that a very big part of her magic, maybe the magic, is linked to music. So yeah, I really like that. I don't remember the mystery a lot. There is some kind of mystery surrounding her father. So yeah, I'm curious to find out also whether might be too YAE for me now. So that's why I want to reread this. But I remember really liking it. This is actually the second one that I'm holding now. Can't even find the name. Oh, this is... No, maybe... But no, I think the series is the Verborgen Universiteit. So The Hidden University, and then this is Het levende labyrinth, so The Living Labyrinth. And the first book is De Erfenis van Richard Greenwell, and that is the something. I'm sorry, I'm not going to translate. Let's see, then we have another book that I want to reread is Au Bonheur des Dames by Émile Zola, which is from the Rougon-Macquart series. When I read this 10 to 15 years ago, I absolutely loved it. This was one of my favorites, and there's a romance in this one that I remember just going back to those parts that I really, really liked. So it's mainly about 2 characters. On the one hand, we have What's Her Name? Her name isn't even on the back. That's how interesting we find her. There's a man and a woman that are characters. So a young woman who goes to Paris to find a job, and she starts working at one of these big warehouses that are starting to... I don't really know actually how those shops are called. In French they're called les grands magasins. So initially you all had little shops that had their specialities, and now you start having very big shops that do a lot of things and have discount and whatnot. And so she starts working at Au Bonheur des Dames, which is a up-and-coming warehouse store. And the boss of this store is Octave Mouret, who he is then a part of the Rougon-Macquart family, and he is making his store grow and grow and grow, and at one point she catches his eye. I absolutely love this one, and I'm curious to find out, well, I expect I'm going to love it just as much, and someone is actually going to do a read-along about this. So I highly recommend you check out Pauline's channel and her video, because I know something you don't know. And I'm very excited. Another book that I read in high school that I want to reread is Blaupause by Charlotte Kerner. So this is German, Blueprint Blaupause, and it's about a pianist, Iris, and she is world pianist. Everybody knows her. She loves her life, but she has some kind of disease, or she's getting older, one of the two, and she knows that her talent is going to get lost. Therefore, she decides to clone herself. She calls her daughter Siri, and she forces her to become a pianist. And at one point, Siri says, "No." And I really like this one. And it has been filmed, and I loved the music. And somehow, so it's been 15 years since I've read this, but that kind of stale remains in my head. That ding ding. I love that music, so I think I'm going to like this, and then I'll read another German book, which is very good. And another book that I've read a couple of years ago is These Is My Words, the diary of Sari Agnes Prine from 1881 to 1901, and it has been written by Nancy E. Turner. It's kind of historical fiction about this woman, Sarah Agnes Prine. She goes from one part of the US to another and kind of settles there, and when she starts out she can't read or write, but she develops into this very strong matriarch, and her love story that she has was wonderful. Well, I remember loving her love story and the relationship that she has with her husband, and also how she later on in the story is there for her kids despite all of the way the life was very difficult at that point in time. So I'm excited to reread this one, because I'm gonna repeat myself, but I remember liking this one, which is why I want to reread it. I should have organized my books. So one that I've read more recently is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It's a very short book, and this is a Penguin classic, little black classics. Let me just read the back to you. This horrifying semi-autobiographical feminist story of imprisonment and madness scandalized 19th century society. This was very good. I remember this feminist touch of showing how because women are imprisoned that they can become completely cuckoo. Very good. That's it for the physical books that I have here. Another book that I want to reread that initially I had borrowed from the library is The Neshoff Family, which is Norwegian. I read it in Dutch, and it has been written by Anna B. Ragde. So it's the story about a family and what happens when the mother dies. The mother has 3 sons, and they're all kind of estranged to different degrees. So one of the sons still lives in the family home, and they have pigs, and the other one is still in the neighborhood, and the other one is not a part of the picture at all. And there is also a young woman who apparently, I can't remember if I'm spoiling this, but who also has a link to the family, and they discover that. And I remember really liking the family dynamics and also the different lives that these 3 brothers have. And so a lot of things happened in their past that explained their estrangement to one another and to their mother and to their father. And the way that was developed and the way you kind of get to know little steps was phenomenal. So I'm really excited to read that again. And because the family farm has pigs, one of the brother that is still a farmer and still is in the family home, he has this very special bond with the pigs, and I remember also really liking that part of the story and learning about holding pigs and how intelligent they are, and his bond with the pigs because they're basically the only thing that he has. Again, this was one book when I read it that held the 3 books into one of the whole trilogy, and I'm unsure whether I'm going to either borrow it from the library again or just get it because I remember liking it a lot. And the last book that I want to talk about is actually another German one. I hadn't realized it. It's going to be a good year for my German reading this year, and that is Die Stadt der träumenden Bücher by Walter Moers, and that is The City of Dreaming Books. I think it's supposed to be a kid's book, but it's brilliant. So it's kind of fantasy world where there is an underground with books. It's an underground with a lot of books, and there are people that are special book hunters, and they try to find very specific books, and our main character does that. And the world was just awesome. And that's what I want to get back to, because I don't know what was so great about this world. And also all of these special characters, people, creatures that were in that world were also wonderful. There were these little one-eyed monsters that were drawn also in the book that were just so great. If I can find a picture, I'll put it here. So yeah, I'm excited to get to that one as well. I haven't actually counted these, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books/trilogies, of which 1, 2, 3, 4 are actual trilogies. So I think I'll be good the rest of this year, depending on how much I read of the actual trilogies. I'm very curious to hear if you've read any of these books, and also if there are any books that you think, hey, maybe I should also reread at least one book that was a favorite of mine 5 years ago and just rediscover your love for it, or if there are any books that you wonder whether they're still going to be favorites, just like what I have with, well, I have high expectations, but Au Bonheur des Dames, it can't disappoint. I hope. Okay, I'll see you in another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Ba-chum, ba-chum, chum.